Mimi, the sincere princess of the Digimon Adventure series. Recently I've noticed that she has been getting a lot of love from the fans, especially in her debut episode of the new Digimon 2020 series. But is the fanfare warranted? Let's discuss on whether or not Mimi Tachikawa is an overrated character in the Digimon series. Let me give my personal take before I dive right into her character and her relationship with the fans. I have always loved Mimi as a character, even back in the early days of season 1. Yes, she had the spoiled brat syndrome, but it's understandable. She comes from a wealthy family and she has been sheltered when it comes to actually doing the dirty work, like camping for example. She does let you down sometimes as a character, and in some cases she can be straight up insufferable to watch, and I'll get into detail with that later. But that's the epic development she gets, and I can even make the argument she can be a capable female leader of the Digidestined if the writers wanted to push for it. When the first season of Digimon came out, and this is before Adventure 02, so at the time back in the day we only had the first season of Digimon. Heck, even when Adventure 02 came out, I would say for a lot of people Mimi wasn't even in their top 5 favorite characters. People would have Sora and Kari over Mimi. Why was that exactly? Sora was the cool tomboy and Kari was the badass little angel. Both of them were portrayed to be almost perfect characters in comparison to Mimi. Sora and Kari rarely complained or moaned in the show. Even when Kari was sick, she never complained. When Tai talked about when Kari became seriously ill because she was out playing football with Tai, even then she was saying sorry to Tai because she couldn't kick the ball properly. And when you look at Sora, she is basically the female Tai, only not as hot-headed. She plays football as well, just like Tai. And she does display leadership skills when she is always checking up on how everyone is doing, like the time when the group got separated, but she was still keeping an eye out for everyone. I call Sora the mum of the Digidestined team, but with just those examples alone, you can see how the writers wanted to portray these two characters in a better light than Mimi. In contrast with Mimi, at the very start of the season, you had her constantly complaining and moaning that her feet hurt, or for instance in the episode where Izzy and Mimi were stuck in that ancient temple. Yes, Izzy was being rude and not giving her any attention, but she's been in the digital world with Izzy for a good few days now. She should know how Izzy is, and he wouldn't just be playing video games on his laptop and ignoring her for no reason. Anything that Izzy does is for the betterment and the survival of the team. He even tells her that what he is doing on his laptop is very important and could help them understand the digital world even more. But what does she do? She loses the plot and just leaves him. As a result, she got herself lost and almost killed as well in the process. It was Izzy in the end that saved her. This was all when Devimon separated the kids from Fire Island. If you look at Sora, when she was with Joe, she was being very helpful to Joe. She had a few jokes as well. She wasn't moaning or complaining or anything. She let Joe take charge and wasn't crying about anything that Joe did or said. Hell, Joe was the one crying and complaining in that episode. But look at the contrast between the two episodes. You have one portrayed as this near perfect, headstrong female character, whilst the other was portrayed as a whiny, spoiled brat. Those early episodes really did the damage on Mimi's character in terms of her popularity with the Digimon fanbase. And remember, this is before season 2 and Digimon Adventure Tri, so this is all we had. I remember a lot of people hated Mimi back in the day. They found her so annoying and people would naturally compare her to Sora. Sora was portrayed to be perfect, whilst Mimi had all the flaws. This was the killer for her popularity, that constant comparison between these two characters. And you can understand why people preferred Sora over Mimi at that time, because let's face it, Mimi's first impression wasn't good. It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, while Sora was cool and badass. And it still goes on into episode 25 of the original Digimon Adventure. Mimi was such a little shit in that episode. She straight up took advantage of Otamamon and Geckomon. She locked up Tai and Joe in prison, and when Palmon had enough of her shenanigans and called her out on it and straight up called her a spoiled brat, she then locked up Palmon as well. It then took Sora to come in at night and to talk some sense into her, for her to return back to her usual self and actually be helpful and keep her promise to wake up Shogun Geckomon. Again, in this episode alone, Mimi was basically portrayed as the villain of the episode, whilst you had Sora come in and basically be the hero of the day because she talked some sense into our sincere princess. And you guys wonder why she wasn't a popular character back in the day. Look at how she's been portrayed. She wasn't underrated or overrated. She was straight up hated because of the way her character was. Episode 25 of the original Digimon Adventure was the closest thing to an evil Digidestined we got. And remember, this is before season 2, so we had no Ken as the Digimon Emperor, but yeah, that's how badly she was portrayed. It was as if the writers were teasing us. If any Digidestined were to turn evil, it would be her. And if you asked anyone back in the day, if you thought any of the Digidestined would turn evil other than Matt, you would most likely pick Mimi because of episodes like this. However, I think she's the most far away from being evil than any other Digidestined. She has the crest of sincerity, but in the Japanese it was called the crest of purity, and boy does she earn that crest. The episode where we see Togemon digivolve into Lilymon, she was crying because she felt helpless. She wanted to help out, but she was powerless to do so. Her wanting to protect her family and everyone else captured by the Bakuman and the Dark Tyrannomon enabled her crest to be activated. Her tears literally activated her crest. Those tears was not only the trigger for the crest, but also a trigger for her character growth and progression. When they returned to the digital world, they found out that a lot of their Digimon friends have died. She even builds graves to remember them. This was the same character that found Digimon like Numamon, Sukamon, and Chumon disgusting creatures. Alright, they were flirting with her and it was done for comedic relief, but even at times, she was even brutally rude to Palmon as well when she was talking about her appearance. Now that's mean. But yes, that character is mourning the deaths of these creatures that she at one point found disgusting and is now building graves for them. As you can see, her character is starting to mature and understand the bigger picture. As a result of seeing this, she goes in a mini depression phase of not wanting to fight anymore. She leaves with Joe, and guess who she ends up meeting with? The old enemy, Ogremon. This, I think, was the game changer. Mimi went out of her way to take care of Ogremon. She even got Joe to treat his wounds. A former enemy, a Digimon that was attempting to kill them, she is now looking after. For me, I don't hate Mimi before this, and I always found her character quite funny, but when I saw her do this, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that this was Mimi. She gave her trust to Ogremon. She felt bad for Ogremon because he was injured, and guess what? She ended up changing Ogremon to be a good guy. She did that. If that's not a characteristic of a leader, I don't know what is. Fast forward to season 2, she did the same thing. Everyone was arguing with Digitamamon, especially Yoli. Everyone was saying how dangerous Digitamamon was and he can't be trusted. Digitamamon even had a dark spiral inside him, and you can tell because he had those red eyes. And still, despite that, Mimi was still looking for the good in Digitamamon, despite him being in control of the dark spiral and the Digimon Emperor. Digitamamon even attacks her, and guess what? She still tells Yoli not to attack Digitamamon, but to talk some sense into him and to try and gain back into being good again. This right here is Mimi's greatest trait, her ability to find good in people. Back in season 1, she ended up getting her own army to fight Piedmon. But despite that, I still feel the early episodes on season 1 did a number on her popularity. However, season 2 and onwards, I feel her popularity skyrockets. The scene with Digitamamon is prime example of Mimi at her very best. The difference between her and everyone else is that she genuinely cares about people and that she would take charge and go out of her way to make a difference into bettering other people and their lives. In Digimon Adventure Tri, she tricked Matt and Tai to go on that Ferris wheel to sort their problems out. She even took Meiko under her wing. She didn't need to do that, but she went out of her way to help the new shy girl in town to make sure that she has a friend. This is what I love about Mimi's character. She's a people person. That's why I feel if the writers want to push for it, have Mimi be the female counterpart to Tai's leadership instead of Sora. Both Tai and Mimi are loud and both of them are leaders in their own way. While Sora, and I know I called her the female Tai earlier in the video, but that's how the show wanted to portray her, where in reality, she has very similar traits to Matt. She had her lone wolf moments just like Matt. She even entered the Cave of Darkness just like Matt. And she has deep-seated anger from her issues with her mom. Again, just like Matt. So that's why I would have preferred Mimi to be the female leader whilst Tai as the male leader of the Digidestined. It could have been like a Captain America Black Widow type scenario from the Marvel films with Mimi and Tai if the writers wanted to push it that way. Mimi for me is not only underrated, but she's actually one of my favorite characters of the show, period. She's my favorite female Digidestined. Yes, I know, I said it. I'll pick her over Kari and Sora, and probably over the other female Digimon tamers in the later seasons as well. From what she was early on in the original Digimon season to how she ended up in Adventure 02 and in Digimon Adventure Tri showed organic growth of a character. She is not only a very trusting and caring character, she is also very brave and courageous. Which other characters do you know would go out of their way to help a former enemy? Even in season 2, when Golemon was destroying the dam, the O2 cast were reluctant to ask Ken for help. They still didn't trust him, but Mimi did. She ended up messaging Ken, and guess what? Ken showed up to help defeat Golemon. Again, even though Ken was a former enemy, she still looks for the good in people and believes that people and Digimon always have a good heart inside, no matter how horrifying their actions were. Seriously, how can you not love Mimi's character? She deserved the praise she got from the fans in her debut episode of Digimon Adventure 2020, and I think she will only get more and more popular as the show goes on. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down below on whether you think Mimi is overrated or underrated. Click that notification bell to stay up to date with our content, and as always, care for nothing.